Somewhere in the rolling English countryside lies the body of Sarah Wellgreen, a mother of 5 who simply vanished from the family home.
Hello, I want to report a missing person.
Okay, who's the missing person of yourself?
Sorry, she's the mother of my children.
For Sarah's grown-up children, an anxious, agonising wait.
You've got so many different emotions going through you at the time. Like even, oh, they haven't found anything, could she still possibly be alive?
As a huge police investigation unfolds, all the clues suggest that Sarah hadn't simply disappeared. She'd been murdered and her body hidden.
What we found was no sign of Sarah. There was no physical evidence of Sarah. There was no financial footprint. There was no digital footprint.
Where was Sarah Wellgreen? Had she been killed? If so, what was the evidence which would uncover a killer's mistake? Sarah Wellgreen's disappearance was first noticed by a friend who calls her grown-up son, Lewis.
He couldn't get in contact with my mum. He'd been trying for like all day, heard nothing. Last time I spoke to her was like the night before. So I thought, oh, that's all right, she's probably just ignoring you. So I tried, couldn't get nothing, and then contacted my nan, brother. Nobody else could.
I was working in Guildford at the time. I was working in a hotel round that way.
Lewis's brother, Jack Burdett.
On the first day that I was called, I didn't think much of it. I mean, I tried to call her, got no answers.
I was trying as much as I could, phoning her, messaging her, trying to think of any different way to get hold of her whatsoever. Phoning people she might have been with, seen, but nothing.
I firstly put it down to that she was just having a bad day and didn't want to talk to anyone. It was the next day when Lewis and my nan came to visit me at the hotel. We sat down, went through things a lot more, and I believe I quit my job that day and we all drove up to Kent.
Sarah shared a home in the leafy village of New Ash Green with her former partner Ben Lacomba and their 3 young children. Ben had not moved out despite the couple having split.
I phoned Ben to begin with from his mobile number. Got nothing through, it's about 7 o'clock in the afternoon, and then managed to get the house phone number, and one of the children answered the phone and I got him to go and wake him up.
It was Ben Lacomba who then called the police.
Hello, I want to report a missing person.
Okay, who's the missing person of yourself?
Sorry, she's the mother of my children. Sarah's got a couple of phones that she left, like, were in her room.
Okay.
And I've looked through a phone, like one of them didn't have a lock on it, to see what was going on sort of thing. And I found out that she's sort of like seeing a few blokes sort of thing.
Is there a reason that she may have gone missing? Anything going on about it might be upsetting, or any reason you know that she might go missing at all?
Like I said, like nothing. Well, obviously I found out about like sort of seeing quite a few blokes sort of thing. I can only guess really. She's got quite a complicated life, like, and it's just a bit messy really.
The man who would lead the investigation into what had happened to Sarah Wellgreen was to be an experienced Kent officer.
I'm Detective Superintendent Ivan Beasley. I'm a major crime senior investigation officer, and part of the investigation that moved on from Sarah being a missing person.
One of the first things to strike Beasley was the timing of the report, days since she was last seen by Ben.
Kent Police first got a phone call from Ben Lacomba on the morning of the 11th of October 2018, but actually Sarah was missing a couple of days prior to that.
From the off, Beasley sensed something was wrong.
We went straight to the home address in Basie Shaw in New Ash Green, and we searched the home address, and we found that Sarah's car was still there. We found that her handbag was still there with her purse and her cash and her cards. We found that her work mobile phone was still there. In fact, on speaking to Sarah's family and to Ben Lacomba, apart from her personal mobile phone, everything else was still at the house. That also included some of her jewellery that was still in the bathroom. So that raised some alarm bells straight away.
The missing mobile was to play an important part in the police investigation.
We were able to establish that that phone went offline at 4:04 in the morning, the night she disappeared.
There were things about Ben Lacomba's behaviour too that worried the family.
A couple days after she went missing, we wanted to try and see the children, and we were blocked from it. And I always thought that was a bit strange. So it was from that point where my suspicions grew a lot more, because you can tell he's obviously hiding something, so again it raises more questions.
The way he was presenting to us was described to me by my officers as quite odd. He didn't really want to engage with us. He didn't really want us at the house, which for somebody that had reported Sarah missing and somebody that initially phoned us because he was concerned, he didn't seem to act in that way.
As the police dug deeper into Sarah's disappearance, the story they were told by Ben Lacomba simply didn't hang together.
Sarah, he told us, had come home from work on the evening of the 9th of October.
She came home Tuesday night, and then we all went to bed, and then when me and the kids woke up in the morning, she wasn't there.
Right.
But her car's still outside. She hasn't gone missing before, but she's got a bit of a weird life, let's put it that way.
That is not how her son saw Sarah's life.
Her life was looking up. She went for an interview not long before it, and she was happy about it all going well. And then she was offered the job, better wage, company car. Yeah, her life was on the up. Everything was going great for her.
So our initial instincts were that the information we were getting from Sarah's family and friends was that Sarah was very happy, her future looked bright. But actually the information that we were getting from Ben Lacomba was the opposite. He was saying that Sarah was depressed, that she would take herself away, and he was worried that she may harm herself.
Officers trawled Sarah's phone records for information that might help explain her whereabouts. The records revealed that after going to bed on October 9th, far from being depressed, she happily messaged a number of friends until late into the evening. And that wasn't the only curious aspect of her supposed disappearance.
It was quite suspicious that Sarah had left all of her property behind. Her family were telling us that she would never walk anywhere. She always used her car, and that was still at the home. So we were very worried right at the beginning, and we classed Sarah what we call a high-risk missing person. Had she come to some harm? Had she harmed herself? Had she had an accident nearby? Had she left and couldn't return because she was being held somewhere?
There was nothing else to think about other than, where is she? How could she be missing? Why would she be missing?
Every day was like that. Every day you believe something will turn up, some sort of new evidence, anything at all, some sort of sighting or anything. The police looked into absolutely everything.
Had she come to harm? Had she had an accident? Had she hurt herself? So inquiries in the local area were carried out quite quickly, and that actually became quite extensive because of the nature of it being a rural area and the kind of searching and the search teams we needed to help us with that.
Detectives wanted to know about the missing woman, Sarah Wellgreen. Sarah was a happy, well-liked member of the community and a mother to 5 children, whom she adored.
She was fantastic. She'd do anything for her children, no matter what it took. She'd be there for you, help you with anything you needed. Just amazing.
She had very many friends, quite a wide network of friends, and was socialising. She was always on social media. She was always in touch with her family.
Sarah's social circle and popularity were in stark contrast to those of her ex-partner Ben Lacomba.
He didn't seem to have much of a network of friends around him. He didn't seem to have anybody close to him other than his mother and his children.
As Ivan Beasley worked with those searching for Sarah Wellgreen, he and his team wanted a broader picture from the family of the relationship between Sarah and Ben Lacomba.
She met Ben when I was about 8 years old, 9 years old maybe. I believe they met through an online dating website, and to begin with it was nice, just seemed like a nice bloke.
It was 2004, and the new man in Sarah's life seemed to be just what she needed, a role model for her boys, offering a bright future together in Spain.
His mum and his dad lived out there at the time, so we lived with them for a while before moving into our own house in Spain. It was pitched to my mum as a new life, somewhere fresh to go and start, a place where they could have their own home together, different country, everything would go well, he'd provide for her, all things like that.
Sarah had quit her job as a bank manager in Portsmouth to begin the family's new life in the sun, but it didn't take long for Ben Lacomba's grand plans to unravel.
I believe he was training to be a pilot for commercial airlines, things like that. Done all the training for it and it never took off. All he did was just work at the airport.
I don't think it took her long to realise that that was never going to happen. So as time went on, things were obviously rocky. Not that much money coming in. It was not the life that she wanted for her children.
In 2006, with Sarah's Spanish dream in tatters, the family dynamic was to change dramatically. They returned to the UK.
We lived in a caravan for a little bit, for a couple of months, and then we moved to Dartford and stayed there for a little while until they could get the house in New Ash Green.
Sarah and her partner Ben struggled to make things work in Kent. While Ben picked up a job as a taxi driver, Sarah tried a change of direction.
She wanted a completely different career path, so she started going to college and became a beauty therapist. She worked hard for it, and something she enjoyed doing. She loved it.
She knew that it would only be hard work for a while, and then eventually she could run her own business and end up moulding her life and work a lot easier around her children.
As Sarah's professional life flourished, her relationship with Ben was falling apart.
I used to argue an awful lot. I didn't know if it got physical at any times. I don't think she would tell us if it did, because, well, then things would be an awful lot different. But she's a very capable woman, you know, very strong, very independent.
The developing picture of the marriage was of a far from happy couple. Things had become fraught. In 2014, 10 years after they met online, the writing was on the wall. But nobody could have predicted what would happen next.
He decided to throw out the house one day, changed all the locks, things like that. And then next to go was my brother Jack.
That was the day where everything probably hit its worst point. I remember the day well. Ben turned up to my school with a suitcase filled with my belongings and told the teachers at the time that I am not allowed to return to the home. And that was the first time I was made homeless.
With so much discord, detectives had more reasons to feel that there had been foul play in the sudden disappearance of Jack's mum. It wasn't long before Jack's younger brother Lewis was also evicted from the family home. Sarah told friends that she felt forced to take drastic action.
She moved into a little house in Gray's Inn. Never seen her struggle like that before, but me and Jack were there for her.
Sarah did whatever she could to establish a new home for the family, but suddenly announced she was moving back in with Ben.
Everyone told her it was a bad idea.
I tried to stop her from going back there. My brother Jack and my nan as well, which is her mum, also didn't like it at all. We all tried our best to stop her, but she had no choice.
That came at a very personal cost for her.
To the outside world, they appeared as a family under the same roof. In reality, detectives had discovered that Sarah and Ben Lacomba were living separate lives, fighting over their planned separation settlement.
From 2014 to 2018, that seems to be a very, very toxic 4-year period. 4 years is a hell of a long time to be living in this way.
By the autumn of 2018, Sarah could finally see light at the end of the tunnel. She was approved for a mortgage and on October the 8th was offered a new job in the beauty industry. The next day, she accepted it. It was the last day she was seen alive. It had been 2 days after that Ben Lacomba called the police.
Hello, I want to report a missing person.
Time for Ivan Beasley and his team to hear more from Ben Lacomba.
My officers had gone back to see Ben Lacomba to take more information from him and actually to ask him if they could take his mobile phone and download his phone so that we can potentially retrieve some information from that to help us find Sarah and the location of her missing phone.
The police asked to see it. Well, of course they did. Why wouldn't they? His answer, I'll bring it in tomorrow. I just need to sort some stuff out on it first of all.
Ben Lacomba refused to give us his phone that evening. He told us that he would see us the next day. He told us he'd come to the police station and we could do it then, but he needed to do some things on his phone first.
Meanwhile, phone records were not the police's only line of investigation. Detectives spotted something else which might provide another vital source of clues.
They go to the house and they notice the fact that there is CCTV everywhere. They ask to see it. He tells them, oh no, it's been corrupted, the system's no longer working.
It was quite an elaborate setup. He had cameras at the front, the side and the rear of his house, all controlled by a system which was actually kept in his bedroom, which was in the attic conversion of their house. But when we spoke to Ben Lacomba, he said the system hadn't been working for over a year.
Luckily for the police, there is far less intrusive, but still very effective CCTV from the outside of the house next door.
We had 3 months' worth of footage that we were able to view, and that gave some really good insights.
One insight was that Ben Lacomba appeared to be lying when he said his camera system was not working.
One of the things that CCTV shows is Ben's CCTV cameras and their flickering light that says they're active. And what it shows is that on the night of Sarah's disappearance, someone turned them off.
More evidence turned up as police discover a gravedigger's shovel hidden in Ben Lacomba's shed. He told them it was a Christmas present for his mother. On October 16th, a week after Sarah was last seen alive, Ben Lacomba's Vauxhall car was seized by police. That same afternoon, Lacomba kept an appointment at Dartford County Court related to the couple's splitting. That would raise yet another red flag for Ivan Beasley.
After she'd disappeared, within a few days of her disappearance, Ben Lacomba had gone to the family court and was trying to convene an urgent hearing. Now, I wondered what the urgency was. Why did he need to do that so quickly? And the only answer I came up with was that he knew Sarah would never be coming home.
It became even more important to locate the whereabouts of Sarah Wellgreen. In the meantime, Senior Investigating Officer Ivan Beasley was finding more and more evidence to put Ben Lacomba at the centre of his inquiries.
From everything we were finding, the fact that I believe Ben Lacomba had turned off his own CCTV camera to hide his movements that night, that his car had been on the move, he had been away from the home over 2 hours that night, the fact that it took him a number of days to contact us to report Sarah missing. His behaviour after he had done that was very strange. My suspicions were growing. He was my main suspect, and I believed he was responsible for Sarah's disappearance. In fact, I believed he was responsible for Sarah's murder.
The intensity of the search for Sarah Wellgreen continued with an entire community involved. Sarah's sons kept the story of their missing mum as high profile as they could, and in any way that they could.
I checked Facebook before I went to bed, like I generally do, and there was on the village account, there was a shout out from a young man called Lewis saying that his mum had gone missing and had anybody seen her. That played on my mind through the night. I woke up about 5 in the morning and she was still missing. I checked the Facebook. So I put a shout out in the morning saying, is anybody free? There's a missing lady. Fancy going and having a little look for her.
The effort the community put into helping search for my mum was absolutely insane. Like, I never expected anything like that. Even from the post that I put on Facebook, how much it got shared between so many people and how far it spread was amazing. I couldn't believe it.
It was a massive shock to see so many people come out. I mean, the village has always looked after one another, but to see the extent of it was just amazing.
Even with hundreds of volunteers turning out to help, the scale of the search was daunting.
Around New Ash Green, it's a complete maze of fields, trees, just wilderness everywhere. To find Sarah, it really is like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
In the first weekend, we covered a 2-mile radius of the village, and marking that on the map and every route that has been taken just was a mammoth task of logging that data every time someone comes back from a search.
As the hunt for Sarah continued, police tried to piece together what had happened. Everything seemed to point in one direction.
Very soon, in very few days, we were told that, you know, it was not a missing person, it was being treated as a potential murder. So we kind of pulled everything back and started again, because we were now looking differently. We were now looking not for somebody that dragged themselves off the road, we were looking for where somebody could be dragged to.
Every day you believe something will turn up, some sort of new evidence, some sort of sighting, anything at all.
Alongside no sightings of Sarah, no evidence whatsoever that she was alive.
We found no sign of Sarah. There was no physical evidence of Sarah. There was no financial footprint. There was no digital footprint. There was no sign of Sarah at all.
You've got so many different emotions going through you at the time. Like, even, oh, they haven't found anything, could she still possibly be alive? But then as it goes on and on and on, and more ends up developing through the, with the police and things like that, then obviously it comes to a realisation that that's not the case anymore.
Ben Lacomba's behaviour throughout this time was confusing to his neighbours.
We were really baffled with Ben when, about day 3 or 4 of our searching, he went into the village office to book the village hall he ran kids' war games with these foam guns. And we thought that was completely bizarre. There's half the village looking for the mother of his children, and he's trying to arrange a kids' game in the village.
We all had our suspicions beforehand, but obviously investigations have to be done and things take time, which are annoying, but that's the way things work.
A week after Sarah was last seen alive, detectives decide to make their move.
On the 16th of October, I had Ben Lacomba arrested on suspicion of Sarah's murder and brought into custody.
Venice Police, you are under arrest on suspicion of murder of Sarah Wellgreen.
I've read online that somebody had been arrested for it, and my first instinct was Ben. Like, it couldn't have been anybody else. And that's when things started becoming a lot more serious.
Late that night, police began what would become a series of interrogations about Ben Lacomba's involvement in the possible murder of Sarah Wellgreen.
You're here on suspicion of murdering Sarah Wellgreen.
We interviewed him a number of times. In fact, we had 7 hours worth of interviews with Ben. Throughout all interviews, he remained silent. He refused to answer any questions.
This is the video recording of his first interview on the night of his arrest. The investigating officer pulls no punches.
We believe she may be dead, and that may be at your hand. So, did you kill her?
For nearly a minute after the question is put to him, Ben Lacomba remains completely impassive, staring silently.
So, I'm not clear at the moment, Ben, whether you're just trying to think of an answer or whether you've decided not to answer the question.
He didn't say no comment. In fact, he just stayed absolutely silent and stared at the floor. For somebody that was innocent, somebody that had nothing to do with Sarah's disappearance, somebody that had phoned us with concern that she'd gone missing, for him not to help us was really strange.
Ben Lacomba's refusal to even speak to police left him with a problem. There was not enough evidence to charge him with Sarah's murder. On October 19th, detectives had no choice but to release him from custody.
You can only assume that Ben is relying upon the lack of a body here to guarantee that he doesn't get arrested or charged.
Investigators set about gathering still more background information. They began with the neighbour's CCTV.
Pretty much every day, Ben Lacomba would come home and he'd park his car in the car park right next to his house. I call that car park 1. The day that Ben Lacomba came home from work, on the 9th of October, he parked his car in what I call car park 2. And that's behind the neighbour's home address, in an area that's not covered by CCTV. It's quite dark there, and an area where Ben Lacomba could still get to his house, but without being seen. And I wondered, why did he not park where he would normally park, right by his house?
Why? Why do something so unusual, so different, unless you have something you want to get from the house to the car?
For Ivan Beasley, there was only one possible motivation for Ben Lacomba's actions.
I believe he parked there because he purposely didn't want to be seen that night. He purposely didn't want to be captured on CCTV, removing Sarah from that house and taking her away.
Beasley felt he had a much clearer idea of exactly what happened that night.
We know from CCTV that Sarah came home just before 8 p.m. on the 9th of October. We can see Sarah parking her car next to her house, and we see her going into her home address. That's the last time anyone saw Sarah, apart from her children and Ben Lacomba.
The neighbour's security camera clearly placed Sarah at home with her family on the night of her disappearance. Now other CCTV footage was to reveal even more explosive secrets.
I set a CCTV strategy with quite wide parameters to scope what footage we may find from people's home addresses, businesses, or from the local authority CCTV, to see if I could find anybody that had come to the address or had left the address, and if so, where they'd gone.
The strategy would give police the breakthrough they were looking for. In the early hours of October 10th, Ben Lacomba had got into his red Vauxhall Zafira car and drove off into the night.
I knew that the account that they'd given us, that he'd just been at home asleep all night, was untrue. Ben Lacomba had been out in his car for over 2 hours the night she disappeared. You can travel a long way in 2 hours. He could have left Kent itself.
CCTV also showed that when the car was first parked there, it was pristine. When it returned from wherever it had gone, it was covered in mud. The next day, he had it cleaned again.
Police trawled CCTV cameras across a 7-mile radius for the crucial 2 hours that Ben Lacomba was out and about in his distinctive red taxi. The footage provided a clear trail.
He came out of his immediate neighbourhood of Bays's Shore and went down a rural lane called Hartley Hill, which then led him on to Hartley Bottom Road, which at night it's never used. And then he ended up on Moorhouse Road in Stansted and finally Blackstall Green Road. And then that's the last sighting. Unfortunately, after that point, there's quite a large gap between where there would be the next CCTV coverage, which we know he didn't hit, so then there's a huge area in between that.
An area that included a country park, a golf course and countless fields and woods.
So we have a 2-hour time frame of knowing how long Ben was gone off camera.
For Sarah's son Jack, the revelations were tough to hear.
All the information and the CCTV footage of him leaving, being gone for a few hours. I know the route that he's taken. I know the last point of camera that he was on before he returned back to the point and took the same route home. It was difficult to watch because I just knew my mum was in there.
The incriminating CCTV footage left little doubt as to who had been responsible for Sarah Wellgreen's disappearance. Would it be CCTV that would provide the killer piece of evidence needed to bring charges? On the night that he refused to hand his phone over to the police, Ben Lacomba took another journey, and cameras were recording him.
After the officers had left Ben Lacomba that night, he left his home address and he drove to a town nearby called Greenhithe, which was right on the River Thames, and he threw his phone into the River Thames to dispose of it.
Detectives felt they were homing in on a chance to charge Ben Lacomba with the murder of Sarah Wellgreen. They already knew that his car had become covered in mud on the night that she had vanished. Now they had found footage of him dumping his mobile phone in a river hours after police had asked to see it.
The following day, when we were trying to get hold of him, because he didn't turn up at any police station, we couldn't. Only later in the day, after he'd gone out and he'd bought an identical handset to the one he disposed of and put his SIM card back into it, were we then able to contact him.
When presented with the evidence, Lacomba had an excuse at the ready.
He said that in the past, he'd written some messages on his phone that he hadn't sent, but it was a cathartic way of him expressing his views. And he decided that if those messages had ever been seen by the police, they might be construed in a way that might raise suspicion about him being involved. So that was his answer for why he decided to throw his phone in the river.
There was still no sign of Sarah. The search team took a new tack. They tried to get inside the mind of the man that they believed to be responsible for her disappearance.
We never had any doubt it was him, if we're really honest. But we did realise that we were dealing with somebody that didn't kind of think like the rest of us did. So we applied that really to our searches of, OK, well, what do we think? What do we think he thinks? How do we think his thought pattern is?
Unfortunately, what worked to his advantage was that the area has got so much vast and desolate woodland. Some of it isn't accessible to dog walkers or isn't a public walking spot, so they're quite remote, and he would have been able to find a suitable burial site in those locations. Others are more accessible to the public, but again, he could still have found a place there potentially.
Was it possible, in spite of all the evidence that investigators were collecting, Ben Lacomba really believed he could get away with murder?
Oh, I personally think he's just been very lucky. He certainly doesn't strike me as an intelligent man. He's definitely put planning into this, but I think it has just been luck.
There seems to be an arrogance to this man. And well, it's either an arrogance or a stupidity, but it seems to smack of arrogance, because he seems to be of the opinion that if there's no body, then there can be no murder charge.
While prosecutions for murder in the absence of the victim's body are rare, they are not completely unheard of. And in Ben Lacomba's case, there was now evidence to build a strong prosecution case, including the fact that he had thrown away his phone because evidence on it might incriminate him.
The inept way that he went about hiding his steps or covering his steps in relation to this offence, it's inevitable, isn't it? Body or no body, that this man is going to be arrested.
December 20th, 2018. At 6:45 in the morning, police investigating the disappearance of Sarah Wellgreen pay a visit to her former partner at the house they shared in New Ash Green.
Right, sit up first and let you wake up and I'll explain what's going to happen. The time is 6:45. You are further under arrest on suspicion of murder of Sarah Wellgreen. This is a further arrest on the discovery of fresh evidence.
Police believed that they had enough evidence to charge the couple with Sarah's murder. It was time to convince a jury.
The Crown had to prove that Ben had carried out a murder, and they had to do that with the absence of a body. Ordinarily, that's not easy.
I needed to show that there was no physical sightings of Sarah. I also needed to show there was no financial or digital footprint of Sarah. We did ongoing work with her phones. We did ongoing work with her social media. We regularly spoke to all friends, family, any associates we could find. Any potential sightings of Sarah were followed up, and we were able to rule out they weren't Sarah. There was so much we had to do and continue to do to try and show that Sarah was no longer alive.
A year after Sarah's disappearance, Ben Lacomba faced a jury at Woolwich Crown Court, charged with her murder.
We went to trial with a very strong case, not only to show that Sarah was dead, but that Ben Lacomba was responsible for Sarah's death.
For her sons, seeing him in the dock after months of searching in vain for their mother was almost too much to take.
He'd literally just sit there, blank face, didn't move, no reaction to anything whatsoever. I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I just wanted to jump over the counter.
It is unusual for somebody to be charged with murder and tried for murder when there's no body. It is not usual. However, in this scenario, it's hard really to think of somebody who could have done more to guarantee their conviction than Ben did.
When Ben Lacomba was asked questions during his trial, he maintained that he had been at home, he'd been asleep, and he hadn't gone out. All the evidence that we put to him to show that his car had been driving, that his CCTV had been switched off, all the evidence that we put forward, he had no answer for. He just maintained he was in bed, he was asleep, he was not responsible.
As in all murder cases, Ivan Beasley and his team were nervous. Would Lacomba's failure to provide plausible reasons for his various journeys, captured on camera, added to the absence of Sarah's body, be enough to secure a conviction?
The jury obviously were as confident as we are, because fairly quickly they came back with a unanimous verdict that Ben Lacomba was guilty of Sarah's murder.
He made it very easy for them. With all of Ben's actions, with all of these things, the stupid things that this man did, there was only ever going to be one verdict. And it was the right verdict. And it's the right verdict for Sarah.
Throughout Kent, the search for Sarah's body continues. Ben Lacomba has not admitted to her murder, so will not reveal her whereabouts.
Every day I wake up with the same questions. I go to sleep with the same questions. We all know Ben knows.
In some sort of aspect, it brought us all closer, but there's still that missing piece, and it will always be like that. We'll always have that missing piece because of what he's done.
We had real motivation in this case, not only to get justice for Sarah and her family, but also to find Sarah. We wanted to find Sarah's body, to be able to give that back to her family.
The hardest part is that she's still, to this day, not been found. That's probably the hardest thing to actually deal with.
Each time we go out, and if we don't find her, it makes our searching smaller. There's only so many places that she can be, and no matter how long it takes, that grid just gets smaller and smaller. So eventually we will. It's just a matter of time.
We've covered so much ground, and I think we have to be getting closer. We've got to be narrowing it down.
It'd be a lot easier if he was to say where she was, but I believe he will keep on denying it, so he has a hope that he can have a relationship with his children. But as they grow older, they're going to learn what he's done, and it just won't happen. But if he is to give it up, then that's him done. No one has any more questions for him. He loses the last bit of power he has over anyone.
The community that rallied round in the days after Sarah's disappearance continue to offer comfort to her children.
It's not yesterday's news. There is still a mum out there. There's still 5 children that need their mum found.
For those who continue to be involved in the search for Sarah, there remains a grim determination to keep going until she is found.
Some people have struggled with it, and some people came off the search because of the nature of what they may potentially find. But I think for a lot of us, it's just a case of, it is Sarah, we've got to do this now for the sake of her family.
The day we find Sarah would be a very bittersweet. We would be so pleased to bring closure for the family, but it will be something that we would never forget.
It'd mean everything. Just to have a place where you can bury her, and there's a place that you can actually go to if you ever feel down about anything. You've got that place you can go. Without it, you've got nothing.
There's always questions that run through your heads every day, every night, and there's only one way that they will be answered. And even when When I find my mum, there's still going to be questions as to why. But we just want her found.
Convicted of the murder of Sarah Wellgreen, Ben Lacomba was sentenced to life imprisonment. It will be the year 2045 before he can even be considered for parole.
It is no coincidence that on the day Sarah got her mortgage offer that was going to free her of Ben living under the same roof. There's no coincidence on the day she got her new job that was going to give her financial freedom. It's no coincidence that that's the day he decided to murder his wife.
Ben Lacomba is behind bars after a series of mistakes that brought about his own downfall. For Ivan Beasley and his team, there were key moments throughout the investigation, but perhaps the killer evidence was what was not present for the jury to consider. The phone Lacomba had cast away just hours after telling police he would give it to them. A phone, he said, might incriminate him. The phone he dispatched deep into a river in the small hours when he thought no one or camera could see him.
You're here on suspicion of murdering her. We believe she may be dead, and that may be at your hand. So, did you kill her?
Ben Lacomba has been found guilty of murdering Sarah, and he's been sentenced. The proactive search for Sarah has sadly had to come to an end. But any further information that comes out that might help us find where Sarah is, we are reviewing and reacting appropriately to.
You'll just get little tiny flashbacks of little memories, things like that. Even when you look at memories on Facebook that come popping up, little things like that, it does put a smile on your face, but then it does, it brings up a lot of emotion, and sometimes it's quite hard to deal with.
I'm not clear at the moment, Ben, whether you're just trying to think of an answer or whether you've decided not to answer the question.
In fact, by throwing away his phone, Lacomba had told detectives something which led directly to his conviction. It was the killer's mistake.